Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Morning, and we are live. And I'm Katie Halper.
And I'm Matt Taibbi. How are you doing, Katie?
I'm okay. You?
Eh.
Eh.
We just did this.
Yeah, we did. We asked each other how we were, and both of us were eh. Yeah.
Right.
Although I have good news in my life. I mean, nothing I'm going to share, but some health stuff that I was scared about a family member, and it's all good. So glad about that.
Yeah. So that's all good.
Yeah. Which makes me yay.
But otherwise,
yeah, exactly.
Right. So lots to talk about this today. Was there any coverage at all, really, of the Assange thing over the weekend?
There was one person, big shout out to this person who actually, I don't remember. He's also had like a Palestinian on his show, which is a huge deal. And this is, let me just give a shout out to this person. His name is Ayman, but I don't, what is his name? He has a show on MSNBC and Peacock. You know, it'd be good if someone put the first and last name in, but Ayman. Let's see. He interviewed Gabriel Shipman, his brother.
Wow.
That's huge, right?
Yes.
Ayman Moyeldin. Ayman Moyeldin, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing either the first or last name, but yeah, he had Gabriel Shipman on. Oh, and quick plug. Well, I don't know if plug's the right word because it's not helping me or anything, but yeah, it's a plug. It's a plug for justice. If you are watching this and you have time, only if you can get there after watching this show. I'm just kidding. I'm going to be at the British consulate at noon at a protest for Assange, and Roger Waters is going to be there as well. Randy Credico and Margie Kunstler.
Wow.
And Gabriel Shipman. Sorry, coming full circle. Julian Assange's brother will be there as well.
Wow. That's dedication.
But besides that, silence. Radio, effing silence. Television, silence.
Yeah. Well, what do you expect?
What do you expect? I mean, it's disgusting, but not surprising.
Well, I expect horseshit.
Right.
Basically. So we got that. Should we talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. But shout out to Ayman for doing that, really.
Yeah.
And it's a sad state of affairs that we had to search far and wide for the one person who covered it. This is a big deal. I don't understand. Even if you hate the guy, which you obviously do hate him, you know what I mean? It actually shows how afraid they are of touching this case.
Well, so I don't think it's surprising. I mean, look.
Right. I know.
They'd all be making massively more money if they covered Trump every day, even if they did it negatively.
Right.
And, you know, if they put him on TV, if they allowed his tweets, if they did all kinds of things. But, you know, they're not doing that either. So, you know, they're making decisions that, you know, clearly are not only don't make sense from a news value perspective, but don't even make sense from a commercial perspective, which are odd. So what are they're talking about? They're talking about the stuff they're allowed to talk about. So yeah. What were they allowed to talk about this weekend?
Let's go to the video clips, Walston.
Yeah, let's start with Senator Roger Marshall. This is just funny because it's a classic example of sort of gotcha interviewing that, which is annoying on multiple levels. Also, if you recall, we established in a previous show that there is a sound that Chuck Todd makes when he is not pleased with the answers that you're giving, and he kind of goes like that when you're answering,
kind of like we do when we say how we're doing today.
Right. Yeah, but we're doing it ironically and not in the middle of somebody else talking.
Right. Of course not.
When Tuck Chad doesn't like the answer that he gets, if you go on too long, you get what we call a chunt.
A chunt, yeah.
a chunt. And so be on the lookout for chunts in this one. This is Tuck Chad interviewing Senator Roger Marshall from Kansas, right?
Republican, yeah. Republican. Who's a doctor, but anti-mandate.
Right. But pro-vax.
Yeah, kind of. We'll see. I mean, pro-vax he is pro-vax for.
He's pro-vax.
He is pro-vax. Yeah.
He's pretty hardcore pro-vax, I would say.
Yeah. Especially for some.
Yeah.
He believes the vax works. Yes, definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that's one of the reasons why this thing that he does is so let's go to the videotape.
Yeah. Now have chosen not to get the vaccine. But what the biggest impact to be right now is to get boosters into seniors. That's what's going to stop hospitalizations and stop deaths. If you're a senior citizen and haven't got your booster yet, shame on you. Please go do that. If you have underlying health care conditions, if you're diabetic, if you're overweight, please go get the booster, because you're going to get the virus, be exposed to it. I'll guarantee it. And if you don't have that booster, we know the vaccines kind of run out after about 5 to 6 months. Natural immunity would help. And even those with natural immunity may want to consider getting the booster as well. But I think being honest with America is the plan. We know that mandates don't work. From a practical standpoint, mandates are going to cause an economic shutdown. It's going to exacerbate inflation. It's going to cause brownouts. It's going to cause supply chain disruptions and national security issue. Think about this. Half of the National Guard is not vaccinated yet. What would be happening in Kentucky right now if we shut down half of the National Guard? I support the vaccines, but not the mandates.
You said something interesting. You said if senior citizens haven't gotten that booster, shame on you. Is that your attitude for any unvaccinated person in the hospital right now? Because 80% of hospitalizations at a minimum right now in the northern tier where we're hitting.
So are we all clear on what's going on here? So here he's got a Republican who's been invited on specifically because he's a Republican who isn't nuts on the vaccine issue, right? And he's invited him on to talk about, essentially to propagandize the vaccine, right? Which is fine, that's
we got it. We got our vax.
We got our vax. We're all vaxxed. Like
I got my booster the other day.
So here this guy comes on. He thinks he's getting a back rub from Chuck Todd because it's a symbiotic relationship, right? Like a chassage, right? Instead, the guy kind of like he makes a bit of a rhetorical. Probably he wouldn't have said that if it had been a written thing, right? Like shame on you, right?
Maybe not.
He might have said it at a friendlier crowd. Let's put it that way. If you were addressing like the local JCs or something like that back in Kansas, in some town, he would say shame on you, blah blah blah. On national TV, I don't know. It's like a group with like the Elks or something like that.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. So he says this thing, and like rather than let it go and say and think, wow, I've got for myself a Republican who's actually more or less in sync with me on the vax issue. He stops the interview to like essentially pee in the guy's face about using the term shame, and wants him to go one step further. Just so that he can be completely on board with the prevailing whatever. Anyway, let's just keep listening.
Close to max. Are the unvaccinated with COVID? Shame on them.
Look, I think I've been one of the leaders from the start.
Because basically what he says is, so you say shame on the seniors who haven't gotten their boosters yet. What about the unvaccinated? Shame on them too? That's his question.
I support the vaccines, but not the mandates.
You said something interesting. You said if senior citizens haven't gotten that booster, shame on you. Is that your attitude for any unvaccinated person in the hospital right now? Because 80% of hospitalizations at a minimum right now in the northern tier where we're hitting close to max are the unvaccinated with COVID. Shame on them.
Look, I think I've been one of the leaders from the start, encouraging people to get the vaccine. I was leading the charge back in July of 2020 saying we're going to have a vaccine. Let's get it out the door.
So just so everyone is clear, listen to this guy's reaction. He's basically like, Chuck, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, I'm one of the only Republicans who'll go on your goddamn show
and make the argument that people should get vaccinated. Yeah.
And when I get primaried in my next election, they're going to use the fact that I sat on your forum and talked about this stuff,
right,
as a way to try to get me out of office. So thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Just by the way, here's how I feel about that. But anyway, he's going to go on listing his credentials for a little bit.
In the summer of this year, I was encouraging people to get boosters. If the CDC could have pivoted sooner, we would have saved thousands of lives. I think being honest with people, the CDC needs to acknowledge natural immunity. Look, as a physician, I was never able to talk to anybody into stopping smoking by a mandate or by trying to argue with them. It was by being honest and communicating with them. I would just encourage all those folks who have not got the vaccine yet to talk to their doctor about it. And by the way, let's talk about eating healthy and exercising every day and getting 7 hours of sleep, avoiding stress. Those are the things that we can all be doing to help minimize the impact of this virus.
You brought up smoking. I know at our company here, if you're a smoker, you have to pay more. If you don't get vaccinated, should you have to pay for your own health care? Should taxpayers, and more importantly, is it a bizarre incentive to the unvaccinated to give them unemployment benefits?
What does that even mean? He's saying that.
Wow, I just don't know what to say, except there's not a one-size-fits-all solution. I think that problem will be best solved locally. So if a local employer, wants to make those type of decisions, I get it. I'm just against any type of federal mandates of any type, especially an unconstitutional federal vaccine mandate. Again, think from the practical standpoint what that's going to do to the economy, inflation. I rattled off all those other issues that
Senator,
impact. Look at the big picture.
I understand that. Well, look at the big picture of this pandemic. Everything you rattled off that you said would be impacted by a mandate is what we're living through now. The only way to get past the supply chain problems, to get past COVID, get people vaccinated. The only way to get more workers to show up is to make it safer, to get more people vaccinated. Everything you described here, all of our problems, are because we're still in the pandemic and because people haven't gotten vaccinated. How does trying to delay the end of this pandemic better for the economy?
Yeah, Chuck, let's look at the background information. 92% of Americans have some level of immunity to this virus based upon the CDC website. So let's start there. And really, the messaging coming out of the White House has to acknowledge natural immunity and be honest with America. Look, based upon years of experience, mandates don't work.
Let me ask you this. You have talked about natural immunity. You've talked about natural immunity a lot. Would you advise somebody to get the virus rather than get the vaccine?
All right, can we stop?
Of course not.
Yeah. That. Okay. And by the way, I want to apologize. I should have emphatically said he's definitely pro-vaccine. I was thinking, well, he's so delete that I had said that I'd been at all reluctant to call him that, which he is. I was thinking about it as he's saying that it's not advisable for some people, but that doesn't make you anti-vaccine. So my bad.
No, and not only that, we've talked about this on numerous other shows. If you're really pro-vaccine, if you really believe that this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, then you have to be your first step has to be being in favor of the patent waiver.
Lifting patent, yeah, exactly. Right. Or else you're not science-based.
Yeah, or else you're full of shit, basically.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like this whole idea of we're going to talk around the whole idea that we're going to preserve the massive profit numbers for Moderna and AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson and all that stuff, and we're going to keep subsidizing that for the end of time. But the people the unvaccinated who are the fault of those people, we're not going to talk about those. What we're going to talk about are the people who are unvaccinated by choice, because we hate those people and we want to shame them.
Yes, and we want to deprive them of unemployment benefits.
And all this other stuff.
What does that even look like? They just wouldn't get it because they should be. Oh, here's a good idea. These people who we hate, who haven't been vaccinated, let's send them back to the workforce. That's a good idea.
Yeah, well, right. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. That is dumber, right?
It's so dumb. I mean, because this is just about it has become this totally. It has become a culture war. And again, I'm fine with being. I mean, the fact that Chuck Todd has dedicated countless segments to this and hasn't once brought up the issue of the patent waivers just shows how unserious these people are.
Right. Yeah, because exactly.
It's contagious. That's the whole thing. It's a virus, right? So how the hell do you not care? And we live in a globalized world.
Yeah, our borders are not locked. So, it obviously affects. Forget about the morality of it. If
exactly.
Going by
Forget about not wanting other people who don't happen to have been born in the United States. Forget the fact that it's a little problematic to let them go with God, literally, just drop dead. If you are a person of science, as these people claim to be, and have such contempt for others, then you would want to protect American lives by not having.
Yeah, and again, here's this guy coming on. He's a doctor. Did you hear him say I advise people not to get the vaccine so that they can get natural immunity? No. What he's saying is we should take into consideration those who have natural immunity. That's not encouraging not doing it. It's just saying it's a statistical reality that we should maybe take into consideration. Right. And this is
people should have their antibodies measured, honestly.
Yeah, right. I mean,
I think they did in Europe.
It's one of these things that's we're not allowed to talk about it because the official discussion of this is so completely geared towards getting absolutely everybody as the shot that you can't ask questions like, well, okay, does it make sense to vaccinate the young kids or whatever it is? I don't even know. I don't know the answer to that question. What's the research on that? If you bring up that question, you're anti-vax, and here's the guy who's sort of trying to help.
Yeah.
And again, they're peeing in his face. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I don't know. Any other thoughts on that?
No, except someone said, Katie, would you fight Tuck for charity? Because I'd pay for that. Physically, no, I just wouldn't do well because I don't have the strength. Although he doesn't look that strong, but I definitely
could take him.
Yeah, you think I could? Yeah, I definitely would do
by his beard.
Yeah, you're right. Do a chug.
Yeah,
it's a tug. A Chuck Todd chug. Yeah.
Just pull him by the beard and knee him. I think that's the move.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
By the way, someone wrote this. If anyone has this clip, Allison Gill from the Mueller She Wrote podcast was gloating about Assange over the weekend. Let us know. Give us a link in the comments.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I just can't believe is it what did he say? Is it counterproductive? Is it something? What did he say? Is it something doesn't make sense to give them unemployment benefits? Again, it's just send the unvaccinated. First of all, yes, it does. Yes, it does, because these things are for everyone. And second of all, just within your own logic, don't you want these people to be living underground or something, not interacting with the masses? What do you want to do? Starve them? All these unvaccinated people should show up at Chuck Todd's door for hey, I'm ready to refurbish your house. You need a restoration of your porch. Pay me money.
Yeah, exactly. it just reinforces every paranoid fantasy that
Vindictive, sadistic.
yeah, like we're gonna start making your rights conditional based on
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff. All right,
And do it in a way that would give us more exposure to the virus.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
All right. So there was some big media news this week, and of course, Brian Stelter got kind of a stiffy over it. So let's listen to that.
A Sunday morning surprise in the TV news business. Chris Wallace, the veteran moderator of Fox News Sunday, is leaving the network effective immediately. Here's how he announced it on his show just a few minutes ago.
It may sound corny, but I feel we've built a community here. There's a lot you can do on Sunday mornings. The fact you've chosen to spend this hour with us is something I cherish. But after 18 years, I have decided to leave Fox. I want to try something new, to go beyond politics to all the things I'm interested in. I'm ready for a new adventure, and I hope you'll check it out.
This is a shock to the TV news business. Chris Wallace is one of the, the journalists that is at Fox who stands out like a sore thumb because the network has become more and more radicalized, both in the Trump years and now in the Biden years. Wallace last signed a contract at Fox in 2017, so he had a 4-year deal. And I'm told, according to source with knowledge of the matter, that he decided to leave on his own. He wanted out at the end of his contract this year. I mentioned at the top of the hour, Chris Wallace surprising everyone by leaving Fox News. Well, it turns out he is joining CNN, specifically to become an anchor on CNN Plus. That's the streaming service that's going to be launching in early 2022. So this was announced with an internal memo just a few minutes ago, and now it's going out wide. The way this works, is he does a deal, his agent does a deal with CNN. He announced his exit from Fox, and now the press release is being blasted out about him joining CNN. So let me read you the statement that he has about his new venture. He says, "I am thrilled to join CNN Plus. After decades in broadcasting cable news, I'm excited to explore the world of streaming. I look forward to the new freedom and flexibility streaming affords and interviewing major figures across the news landscape and finding new ways to tell stories." This is Wallace's statement, adding, "As I embark on this adventure, I am honored and delighted to join Jeff Zucker and his great team. I can't wait to get started." So that's Chris Wallace, as you see on screen there, Fox News veteran, always defined by his Sunday morning moderating and his willingness to take on all political figures, right, left, and everywhere else. Wallace, a veteran of Fox, now heading over to this house, to CNN. And according to the press release, he'll be hosting a weekday show.
It's interesting that he lauds Wallace for taking on figures right, left, and everybody else.
Right.
Is that the model that
CNN
his
has?
own channel follows, that he follows?
I don't think so.
When was the last time that he took on somebody who would qualify as being on his own
But
side?
if you've had
I can't remember. I can't recall. Has it ever happened?
I mean, who wasn't somebody like Bernie?
Right, of course. The media elite's favorite punching bag.
Right. Whose fault everything is.
Right.
Bernie, whose fault everything is Sanders. Sanders.
Bernie, whose fault everything is Sanders. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I counted the number of stelts. They're like 18 or something, and I wasn't counting from the beginning.
That
move. Yeah.
That move?
Yeah.
Do you like that better than the pinchy hands, the Trump thing?
No, pinchy hands are hilarious.
I mean, I think the pinchy hands are the
way to go. What if Stelter just started doing that? People on and should just do all the presidential things. So this is the Clinton one, right?
The Clinton thumb is really.
Every now and then you could do the Clinton pointer.
Well, no, then the Bernie. The Bernie thing is awesome.
Well, the Bernie thing
like
is
this.
No, but then it migrates. It's like
it does migrate. Yeah, it kind of has a mind of its own.
Well, not this way. I don't think it goes that way. Although I bet we could find some footage of it going that way. But usually
I think it goes all over.
Outwards. Yeah, I guess you're right. It does go all over.
It's almost like it's guided by a different person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Putin. It's Putin. That's Putin pulling the strings.
Putin pulling the strings. He's marionetting Bernie the whole time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Putin drunk.
What's that?
He's knocking back vodkas and
Putin drunk. Putin is drunk. Yeah.
The stealth. What does he do? This.
His hands are like cupped. They're kind of casually cupped. They're not too. It's like.
Maybe he was a masseur in a previous life.
Maybe, yeah. Or wax on, wax off. No, but his palms aren't facing the audience. They're facing each other.
They're facing each other.
Yeah.
So it's like this.
Like that, yeah. And they stay that way. They don't turn out or anything.
He's got that kind of short-fingered vulgarian.
Because he does, yeah.
Right.
Also, when I demonstrate this, because my hands are closer, it makes it look like I have huge hands.
Right. Do you have huge hands?
No, I don't. I actually have small hands. Like Trump.
Okay.
Is that what Trump has, apparently? Here, now you see them near my face. You see, they're normal size hands. They're normal size hands, actually, I would say.
I would say Trump has normal sized hands. He's a tall man.
Right. So I think his hands are small for his height, maybe.
Yeah.
Was that Marco Rubio who called him that?
Yeah. I mean, Rubio, come on. Trump towers over Rubio. I mean, the only person who's even remotely close to Trump's height is from that field was Jeb. And
Jeb's tall.
But he's still,
how tall is Trump?
Trump's got to be 6'3.5", 6'4".
Let's see.
He's taller than me. Yeah.
And you're what, 6'2"?
6'2.5", yeah, something like that.
Oh, you're almost. Well, then you're just a half an inch shorter than Trump, who's 6'3". That is kind of crazy that he's that tall.
He's a big dude. You know
how tall Bernie is?
I'm gonna guess 6.
Yeah.
5'11". Is it 6?
Yeah, and Jeb Bush is 6'3".
Yeah, but Trump, but the
low
Trump
energy.
kind of. You ever seen it in a schoolyard? How there are some people who are physically they're pretty big, but they carry themselves like victims.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's Jeb. Right?
Yeah, he lost that fight before he even stepped into the recess yard. Anyway, so
Trump
Chris
should give
Wallace
master classes on how to carry yourself.
Yeah, just how to intimidate other politicians. I think
Hillary's giving a master class. I saw that.
Is she really? In what?
I don't know.
Losing elections?
Probably. That's what it should be.
Yeah. So he's going to become the new standard bearer of the respectable Republican who just couldn't exist in the ecosphere of madness that is, the modern Trumpist right.
Yeah.
So he's gonna join all the Lincoln Project types and Bill Kristol, and although I think he probably has contempt for those people.
Maybe I'm wondering.
I don't know Chris Wallace all that well, but I don't know him at all actually. But from what I've heard, I don't think he likes any of those people. So
right.
But they're holding him up as, oh my God, somebody the last decent person in Fox left. Now it's a morass of insanity. So that's the purpose of that whole story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Apparently Hillary's thing is resilience.
Resilience.
That's what her class is in.
Resilience. Is that?
We should
I guess
take
that
it.
fits. Yeah, that fits.
Should we crowd fund for let's see.
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
Should take it and report back. Learning from Hillary Clinton. Let's see. Yeah, it teaches the power of resilience. Oh my God, hold on. Wait a second. We have to watch this. Hold on. Wilson, I'm texting you something, okay?
Well, let's move on quickly to something else because obviously Russia and Ukraine this is a huge story and this is the classic kind of story that gets done to death on Sunday news shows. So of course it was. But we had Tony Blinken on Meet the Press.
On Meet the Press, yeah.
So let's start with that clip if we
Yeah.
could. Wilson, let's look at the Todd talking with the Blinkster.
Secretary Blinken, welcome back to Meet the Press, sir.
Thanks, Chuck. Good to be with you.
I want to start with what President Biden said he told Vladimir Putin. He said that there would be economic consequences like none he's ever seen or ever have been seen. I want to put up this graphic of all the different ways we have tried to confront Russian aggression and Putin aggression since 2014, ejection from the G8, multiple sanctions, import restrictions, expulsion of diplomats, asset seizures, cybercrime indictments, more military aid to Ukraine. None of it, Mr. Secretary, has curtailed Putin's behavior.
Can we just pause this for 1 second? Well, I did. Is that okay? Like, imagine he went. This means that he went in, or someone went in, and they're like, "Give me a graph." I mean, this isn't like a casual thing he just types in, right? They prepared a graphic of all the ways that the U.S. has confronted Russian aggression.
Mm-hmm.
It's so warmongering. It's like, here, let me show you all the ways we failed.
Oh, I know.
It's like,
Yeah.
might as well just be like a guide to declaring war with Russia.
Multiple sanctions.
Sorry, could we stop?
Yeah.
This is a little thing. It drives me crazy. But the thing in the background is not the
Yes.
Kremlin. The thing in the background is a church.
Yeah.
It's St. Basil's Cathedral. I get that some people think it's a symbol of Russia.
Right,
But
because the
it's
roofs.
it's a little bit like putting the Mormon Tabernacle Choir on a graphic, about how we're confronting American aggression or something like that.
Right.
It to the rest of the world, this looks stupid. Just
Right.
FYI.
Yes.
But anyway, let's keep listening.
And the red tint.
Mm-hmm.
Import restrictions, expulsion of diplomats, asset seizures, cybercrime indictments, more military aid to Ukraine. None of it, Mr. Secretary, has curtailed Putin's behavior. Why do you think these threats will do it?
Well, first of all, Chuck, we don't know that it hasn't curtailed his behavior because he might well have gone further. Back in 2014, he seized Crimea. He invaded eastern Ukraine. Might have gone even further than that had there not been a resolute response. But right now, what the president made very clear to President Putin, what I've made very clear to Foreign Minister Lavrov, my counterpart, is that we are looking at and we are prepared to take the kinds of steps we've refrained from taking in the past that would have massive consequences for Russia. In fact, I'm here in Liverpool with the G7 countries. They are equally resolute in their determination to stand against Russian aggression, to ideally deter it, prevent it. And we've made clear as well that there would be massive consequences if Russia commits renewed acts of aggression against Ukraine.
Already, though, since the president warned Vladimir Putin.
All right. So as he's saying that, there was a story this week in the AP. Wilson, if we could take a look at this. It's entitled, Biden Assures Ukraine's Leader of U.S. Support to Deter Russia, right? So superficially, it's all the stuff they're saying, all right?
What does the headline say? Biden assures Ukraine's leader of U.S. support to deter Russia. Okay, got it.
Yeah. But if you scroll down the story, you will find this interesting passage which sort of reiterates what has been a consistent theme throughout. It says, administration officials have suggested that the U.S. will press Ukraine to formally cede a measure of autonomy within its eastern Donbass region, which is now under de facto control by Russian-backed separatists who rose up against Kiev in 2014. Decentralization of Ukraine and special status for Donbass were laid out in an ambiguous European brokered peace deal in 2015, but it has never taken hold. So basically what this means is that there's a ton of saber rattling going on publicly. they're going to send Tony Blinken on the air to say, this aggression will not stand, man. Right.
Right.
That's basically going to be his thing. But behind the scenes, they're quietly telling Ukraine's government, like, we're not going to go to war for you over the Donbass.
That would be a dumbass thing to do.
Right. And there are so many reasons why they think that it's not worth getting into. A lot of people who don't know the history of that region, don't know who lives there, don't know what the deal is, how Ukraine's borders got drawn up random, like in some ways in somewhat random fashion several times over during the course of the Soviet years. So the issue is basically the Russians think that the Russian-speaking, ethnically Russian portion of the population in eastern Ukraine would choose to be under their control. I'm not disagreeing or agreeing with that. I'm just saying that's what they think. That's their mentality in doing this. The rest of the country, which primarily speaks Ukrainian, is closer to the West. Historically, is probably closer to Poland than to Russia, right? Especially, far in the western edge of Ukraine. They're gonna be very, very against any kind of like Russian incursion. I mean, most Ukrainians will be, but behind the scenes, this whole deal that was brokered was basically going back to 2015 with Europe, with the United States, was basically telling Ukraine, like, we're not going to get involved over the Donbass thing. We're just not. Like, you're on your own there. So if that's what's going on here, like, whatever they're saying publicly, you can bet that if all those troops that are massed on the border go, move into that area, that probably nothing's going to happen.
Which Todd seems very upset about.
Right,
because they're not going to do that. The U.S. won't be intervening to help Russia. I mean, sorry, won't be intervening to stop Russia and help Ukraine. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know.
It's just funny when when the Secretary of State is not bellicose enough for you.
Right.
And I mean,
okay?
Sorry, I'm having some allergies. Sorry, I should have muted. I probably could fundraise off of that. I'm sure someone out there has a thing for blowing your nose on camera.
No, it's just I have such complicated feelings about this whole thing. Like, having lived in that region for so long, my attitude is that it's not in the American national interest to get involved in any of these territorial disputes between any of these groups. Like, right. The one thing we can certainly do is not do stuff like what we did in 2000. I'm sorry, in the mid 90s when basically Boris Yeltsin dropped these sort of massive fuel air bombs on Chechnya, and we essentially got the IMF to pay for their war debts, right? Because back then we wanted Russia to be considered our friends, so we allowed them to commit basically atrocities in this one small area of the country, and then we paid for it. I don't think we have to do that, right. We don't have to get involved, but like, do you want to go for World War III over the Donbass? Like, I don't,
No, but that's it. I'm going to try this again, Matt, because you didn't acknowledge it before. That's a dumbass reason.
A dumbass reason.
I mean, these people do want to go. Yeah. Okay. These people do want to go through I mean, this. Why else would these people talk about how this is what the new Pearl Harbor, right? It's like, what do you want? World War III? So stupid.
Yeah. And you know, when he mentioned NATO there,
Yeah.
like again, so when the Berlin Wall fell, there was an agreement that the Russians took very seriously, that okay, we're gonna not intervene and not put up a fight about democratization in our former satellite countries, if you promise. And the phrase was to take one step toward us with NATO, right? So the Russians believed that after the collapse of the Berlin Wall, and you can go back, there are people who were part of the negotiations after that they felt that in exchange for surrendering their occupation of East Germany and Poland and all these other countries, that the reward they would get was that the NATO would not be expanded towards their borders.
Right.
And so they felt that agreement has been consistently violated, and that's one of the reasons they're so belligerent, you know, about each one of these countries that gets brought into NATO. Now, if this ends up being considered like a situation that NATO has to intervene in, like you just from the Russian perspective, they are not going to take that well. Just FYI.
Right.
But I don't know. This is a mess. Like, I just have to see how it goes, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad Chuck Todd isn't in charge of this stuff.
Yeah.
So he can certainly help shape public opinion on it. So. Should we go to the? Oh, we got to go to the next part of this, right?
Yeah.
Because this is interesting. What happened here?
Putin, Russia's only escalated its offensive. He's escalated his rhetoric. We have reports that he's been sending even more.
Yeah, 31-37. Wilson, please.
I think in our interest, it's strongly in Russia's interest.
All right. Secretary Antony Blinken, appreciate you coming on and sharing the administration's perspective.
Thanks for having me, Chuck. Good to be with you.
Moments after we finished speaking, I followed up with him a third time about the Putin ask, right? Secretary Blinken suggested that with Russian troops currently massed on Ukraine's border, an in-person face-to-face Biden-Putin meeting, while not off the table, seems pretty unlikely. When we come back, President Biden led an international summit for democracy this past week.
If Biden was
well, what if it's our democracy?
In-person meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that a weird thing though that we just saw?
Like, in what sense?
Well, like an update about something off camera.
Yeah, it is. It's a little strange,
right? It means that like he probably had time. Do you think like so? Once it was off camera, once they were done, he asked him one more time, and like for whatever reason, Blinken, I have it that maybe what I think maybe he got a text. He sent out a text to ask about something.
Right.
Like what the line was supposed to be.
Right.
Or like, or he was like, Chuck, can you just add this one thing? I didn't say this, but say this.
And are they not meeting with Putin because we don't negotiate with terrorists, or is that, or what is that?
I don't know. I'm not sure. But he says it's unlikely, which makes it seem kind of like. It almost makes it seem like it's the U.S.'s. I don't know. Is he saying that the U.S. doesn't want it, or is he acknowledging that Putin doesn't have time because he's trying to prep for this?
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't know.
But keep that in your hats, guys.
Yeah. And by the way, somebody asked in one of the questions there, like if our behavior from the Russian point of view is considered belligerent, like moving NATO towards Russia, why isn't their behavior moving into the Crimea considered belligerent? I mean, it is, right? Like, I think that's kind of the point in this whole thing. I'm just letting you know that what the Russian point of view on all of this is, right? From their point of view, they feel betrayed that they didn't get to keep their zone of influence. Like, in other words, they felt they were induced to give up their occupation of basically all the Soviet territories plus the satellite countries,
right?
In exchange for a promise that we wouldn't immediately swoop in and make them all NATO countries, and so the Russians didn't do anything when we made expanded NATO, towards countries like the Baltics, blah blah blah. When it comes to Ukraine, the significant difference there is that there's a really sizable minority of people who are ethnically and linguistically Russian in those countries. So they view that as something fundamentally different from, even like Lithuania, Latvia, whatever,
right.
Or even Belarus. There's Russians in those places. There are Russian-speaking places, people in those places, but that's different from Ukraine to them. I'm just
right.
Not taking sides on this. I'm just saying that's how they see it. So, all right, what else do we have?
More Russia stuff.
More Russia stuff. Okay.
We got this week with George.
Oh yeah. No, I wanted to do.
Oh, sorry, you had something in there?
Yeah, let's look at the preparations for 2024 thing, because I think this is interesting.
Peter Meyer, Mariana, is a member of Congress. He's from Michigan. He voted for impeachment. His own sister believes all of Trump's lies. And here's what he told Tim Alberta. While grieving his sister's obsession with conspiracy theories, he has to work along.
Got to go back just a little bit. Look at the chyron there. Like about 5 seconds back. Is Trump preparing to steal the 2024 election? If you look in the news in the last week, there's just suddenly a spate of these stories. Anyway, go ahead.
Told Tim Alberta, while grieving his sister's obsession with conspiracy theories, he has to work alongside the very people, like fellow freshman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who are pushing those lies. They make folks like my sister think they're on her team, Meyer says, and that's what pisses me off. They aren't the ones paying the price when the consequences come due. Paul Gosar wasn't shot on January 6th. Actually, Babbitt was.
Yeah, it's interesting to see now. Are people like the congressman, like-minded people, there are very few of them, going to start pushing leadership to denounce Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of those in that MAGA squad a little bit more? There is frustration boiling up because leadership hasn't really dealt with them. Yeah. Behind the scenes, McCarthy has, talked with them, but he's also talked, for example, with Nancy Mace when she and Marjorie Taylor Greene were getting at it on Twitter. And
Todd's pen.
People like the congressman were like, well, why are you also punishing her instead of Greene, who continues to attack everyone?
Peter Meyer stands out because he's willing to say the truth, and he's new. And I think what he's going to learn is the reason that so many elected GOP officials don't push back. It's not because of there's some master plan. It's not because Donald Trump told them not to. It's because of their constituents. Yeah. Their constituents believe this, and they don't want to get yelled at by their constituents. And until that changes, you're not going to see anything change. Roger Marshall provided an answer that he knows his constituents won't yell at him about who won the last election, and they've all settled on that. That's what this all comes down to. Until we realize it's the people who believe this stuff, it's not going to change.
Except for the fact that their constituents are driven by the combination of Donald Trump, who still has this massive influence, and the echo chamber of Fox News and Newsmax and OANN that have been broadcasting this propaganda. It's a feedback cycle, right? The constituents are coming up with these ideas on their own. And I'll just say, Chuck, it's like I did an interview with Bannon in October 2020, and he said there are going to be knife fights in the counting rooms. Knife fights in the counting rooms. They lost those knife fights in 2020. Yeah. All of this is about being able to control those counting rooms and win those knife fights in 2024.
You hear there was a lot of chunting in there.
Yeah. positive
Yeah.
chanting at this guy. What's his name again?
Heilemann?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's the former riding buddy with Mark Halperin, who got
Right.
canceled. And
And he's also on some Showtime show called like The Circus.
yeah, The Circus, which was supposed to be basically, because remember those two, Heilemann and Halperin, were considered sort of the how do you put it? Like they were the faces of the self-described Beltway establishment. You know, they wrote books about you know, the Gang of 500, right? Who supposedly decided all elections. They were behind,
Right.
you know, they wrote the Game Change, and say they were the ultimate insiders, and
Yeah.
they really hyped this idea that it was insiders who actually controlled who got to be the nominee and who got elected, and you know, so like their approval was really important. So the circus was supposed to be you know, your window into their thinking, kind of, and it just didn't. I don't think it did all that well. Although I can't say that I paid a ton of attention to it.
Right. But Buck's point is pretty stupid, I have to say. I think.
In what sense?
Well, I mean, it's like it's not like people in a vacuum started questioning. I mean, as much as I think that people overly focus on Trump often, or at the expense of other factors, I do think it's not. He's making it seem kind of like in a vacuum that these people are just believing the election was stolen.
Yeah. No, of course.
Like it's the constituents because they're being told this.
Right. Right. But there's what's interesting to me is that there's been a difference in the way this has been pitched in the last couple of weeks, which is there's a growing anti-democratic movement. Right. So you'll see that phrase all over the place. Yeah. The New York Times did a story. I think it was today, right? Yeah. Wilson, do you have that? The morning newsletter? Yeah, America's anti-democratic movement. So this is the new language. And essentially the assertion is Trump followers are planning to overturn the election, and they are going to do it by illegal means. And it's not really implied like what the response to that is, but we kind of get the idea, right? Like maybe preemptively something has to be done.
Right.
I don't know. I think this is just interesting as something that one has to keep an eye on, because it is true that there is you know, a growing kind of significant audience of people out there that is completely tuned out, you know, this kind of media, and to an extent even Fox, and they're getting their information from people like Steve Bannon's podcast and stuff like that.
Right.
And so they're not reachable in the traditional sense. But the response by by the media on this side of the aisle has been, you know, basically this caricature of it's a massive organized anti-democratic movement. And I don't know, feels to me like that's leading to a next step, you know?
Well, also it's like it kind of lets the Democrats off the hook. Like if these people are unreachable.
Right. Right.
It lets the Democrats off the hook. It lets the blue media, what do we call it? Blue state media off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to try to reach them either. these people are all lost causes. They're all incorrigible. I mean, I think there are some people like that, but it's not everyone.
Yeah, and oops, sorry.
Matt still hasn't, since Joe Rogan, he still hasn't figured out how to turn it off. It's okay. Mine went off on my FaceTime, so what can I do?
Anyway, I just think that we're gonna see like Charles Below had a
That's funny because I was just gonna highlight this blue check. Yeah.
We're edging closer to civil war. Did you see that?
No.
He had a piece out recently that basically argued, where the recent abortion stuff is sort of indicia that we've crossed the line into a new phase of American history that is very much like the Civil War. So there's no turning back now, and we should start acting accordingly. I don't know. What does he mean by that? Let's see. I just scroll down to the bottom. We should worry about so basically what he's warning is that there will be a new civil war, and that if they win, it will be, this war won't be only about the subjugation of black people, but also about the subjugation of all who challenge the white racist patriarchy. It will seek to push back against all the others: black people, immigrants, Muslims, Jews, LGBTQ people, and yes, women, particularly liberal ones. All of us should be very worried about when we see what is happening with these abortion cases. We should worry about whether or not we are at an inflection point for an age of regression. So I don't know. That's all that's really saying is something potentially really bad is coming that is going to involve the subjugation of everybody that is not one of them. So
right.
What does that kind of rhetoric mean? Well, nothing yet, but
maybe Charles Blow should start LARPing.
Like doing what?
Like Civil War reenactment.
Oh.
I forget, what does LARP stand for? I can't even remember.
Live action role playing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's a lot of LARPing going on in media.
By the way. Yeah, there is a lot of LARPing going on. Yeah, in the media.
If you go, it seems to me like whenever I talk to actual people who are not in media, most of them are just like, I'm a little overworked. I don't have enough money to pay for stuff, but they're not storing, bombs in their basement or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I haven't talked to enough people out there, but I thought it was interesting and it was worth pointing out because there's been a sudden and noticeable increase in these anti-democratic movement stories that have popped up both on TV and in the newspapers in the last week and a half or so, which I don't know what it's all about, but I think it's leading somewhere. So anyway, that was Monday morning.
Yeah.
Useful is Monday morning edition. And anything else, Katie?
No, I think we're good. Make sure you check out our Nils Melzer interview. Also, if you are in the New York area, come to the Free Assange rally. Roger Waters will be there. I'll be there.
I won't be there. I'm going to be sitting home watching sports.
Yeah, Matt's going to be there in spirit. As we know, Matt was very upset about the media's reaction or lack thereof to Assange. And that's at 47th and 2nd Avenue at the British Consulate. Guys, come on. The British, they used to be, we got to show that not only do we have to free Assange, we have to show the Brits who's boss.
Yeah, it's always funny to fuck with the British.
Yeah, I wish I had a wig, like a judge wig. One of the wigs that they wear, the Brits wear.
The Lord.
Yeah. The Lord. Free Julian Assange. Yeah.
All right. We will see you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Who's just trying